Hello, everybody. Whoa, sorry about that, everybody. I had it on mute. Anyhow, it's great to be here one more time today. My name is Gary Fowler. I'm the CEO, president, and founder of GSD, Get You Done Venture Studios, a premier AI and quantum venture studio located in the heart of Silicon Valley. I'm a 17-time serial entrepreneur with several unicorns under the belt. I was on the original management team of Click Software, which was sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion, and also Eva.ai and AIH, tech company. We believe that intellectual capacity is evenly spread around the world, but opportunities are not. GSD is get shit done. So it's great. And actually, one of our portfolio, an incredible company, is here today. Frank Monaco with Tua. He's located in the greater Toronto area. He's a seasoned serial entrepreneur with over 20 years worth of experience developing, scaling, and restructuring businesses globally. He's been responsible for teams up to 350 across 35 countries and at $300 million in annual revenue. For that, I'd like to bring my friend Frank. Hey, Frank, how are you doing today?
I'm great, Gary. How are you?
So, are you originally from Toronto, or where are you originally from?
Well, yes and no. So I'm a child of two worlds, actually. My heritage goes back to a very small town, maybe not so small anymore, in the southern part of Italy. So I am a child of immigrants, but I've spent most of my life in Canada, although I did have a stint in the U.S. and the lovely state of California, as well as in Kentucky.
Now, what made you go to California?
Well, at the time I was working with a US-based company, actually one of the pioneers of prepaid gift card, frankly. And I'd been working with them for a few years. I was tasked with taking their business first into Canada and then across the globe. We had acquired a company out of California that was in the space working with the likes of Visa, MasterCard, Amex, Discover on programs that were mall-based. So think Simon's Properties, think Joan Lang's LaSalle, big mall property owners. I was asked by our CEO and founder if I would take on additional responsibility. And I didn't have the ability to say no to the man. So I said yes. I ended up in California and running another business at the same time as I was.
And where were you in California, Frank?
So, say that again, sorry?
What city were you in?
So we're in just outside of Los Angeles.
But how was that? Now, how did it feel after being up in Canada and then moving to LA? Like, did you get into going to Malibu and hanging out?
Oh, yeah. I mean, why wouldn't you?
And then, do you ever miss the weather?
Every day.
Yeah.
Especially on days like today where it's a little bit cold and damp.
Huh. Really interesting, because I talk to a lot of people. In fact, I'll be in LA myself tomorrow. And they talk about the weather, how much it influences them. And then yet at the same time, they're living. I know I lived over in Eastern Europe for a while, and it got real, real cold in the wintertime. And my friend said, well, how could you do it? You get used to it after a while. But then when I came back to the States, especially with Florida and California, I understood you didn't have to wear a lot of clothes. You could, dress, and it costs you a lot less to live, by the way. So you've gone down through it. You've had a wonderful career. So you start off at Sheridan College. You're an engineer. You go down through in the University of Toronto. You go to get a bachelor's degree. And then you go out to the Project Management Institute of University, and then to Carlson. So why did you go to University of Minnesota?
That was actually part of an executive management program. And this goes back quite some time, probably dates me, but it's over 15 years ago now. It was an executive management program where we had a new CEO come in over the parent company that owned us at the time. This was when I was in the processing side of the business, a company called SBS, that was really owned by Ceridian. And our new CEO had a General Electric background and built this executive management university program around the GE program. And I was one of 30 executives selected to participate through all the groups of company under the Ceridian group of companies, which consisted of, I think, 30,000 people across the globe. And we went through this training program whereby we worked with the University of Minnesota. It's predominantly because of where Ceridian's headquarters were. And so we worked with board members, with senior level executives on specific programs, and you disseminated down to 5 or 6 key execs that would then run or own specific projects within the group. And it was really to kind of find the next C-level individual within the organization. It was an absolutely fantastic program.
Really? So how did they do that? So basically it was a filter for C-level executives?
Yeah, it was a way to identify high-performing individuals. I mean, the process was fairly rigorous in the sense that it started with a selection process that went down through management layers. You identified certain key people. Those people then were brought up into the program. They attended the program. It was very structured and organized. We had to be on site once a month for it, so there was an investment of time associated to that. And all of the C-suite executives were participating in that program, either leading elements or judging specific elements, because there were a whole bunch of.
That's interesting, man. That we had that. I took a little time off and I worked for Deck HP, and we had the same thing. And I remember going up to Brown, and then they would have these events, and they actually had like these evaluators would come in and evaluate you. And it was funny because one time we had one in Orlando, and I had been up in Boston area, and I was doing pretty much the same thing, and they evaluated me totally differently. And it wasn't, either one wasn't bad or good, but it was just different. It was, it was interesting. Yeah, it was. So you went down through that, and you became a senior vice president, general manager. You were at Stored Value Systems. What was that? What made you decide? I mean, was that your first job coming out? So you were 2001, right? But did you just say, "Oh, I want to do this. I want to be a senior vice president"? Is that what happened with that?
No, I had, like most people in their career life, you have many twists and turns. Some of which included, starting my own businesses. We developed a small marketing firm when the big tech bubble started and the internet was kind of going. I was in school at the time, actually, and we created this, this small marketing firm doing very simple stuff like simple website design, even simple things as business cards. This is back before you had all the tools and solutions you have now, where you had to kind of find people that had the talent to do stuff. So lots of twists and turns, but I had the opportunity. I was at Rogers Communications at the time I was working, and one of my technology partners there, who ran kind of the central organization and technology group, left the business to start their own firm and really move into more of a consultancy structure. And he had been discussing opportunities with the founder at that time of Stored Value Solutions, a guy named Tom Reckenwald. And I got a call, out of the blue one day and said, "Look, I've had some conversations. I've kind of put your name in the hat. I wasn't looking for anything at the time. I think you should meet with this gentleman and spend some time." So, in the beginning, I didn't even know what it was. Right? We were talking about gift cards. I thought, greeting cards like Hallmark and stuff like that. This is right in the beginning of of kind of prepaid gift, and now we take for granted they're everywhere and everybody has them, but it's really early days. And so I decided on his recommendation to go and meet with this gentleman in the Marriott Hotel by the airport here in Toronto. And, we met. What was supposed to be 40 minutes turned out to be almost 3 hours.
Wow.
And at the end of that conversation, I was already convinced that I needed to get involved, and, that there was just so much opportunity. I'd be crazy not to take a leap. And I had a good position in a good role. And that kind of happened from there. And so that's how I ended up as a senior executive within the organization. I helped build the international footprint from the ground up, starting first in Canada and then branching off to over 40 countries. And it was an amazing journey filled with lots of stories, man, more stories than we have time to talk about.
Wow. No, I mean, you've had a robust career, right? So you go, income, do your own mortgage. You were an advisor, Swissclear Global. So as you've gone down through this journey, Frank, what have you learned going down through this journey? You've been with a lot of companies, you've been with large companies, but if you could say, like, of the 3 companies, so if you look at, you did Prepaid Nation, right? You were in Philadelphia?
Yeah. Well, I wasn't in Philadelphia, but they're in Philadelphia. Yes.
So you did the Prepaid Nation, but if you look at lessons learned, what are 3 lessons as you're going down through and starting your own business? What were 3 of those lessons that you now understand that are critically important?
Well, I think the first one that I always say is focus. That's a key thing to any business, whether it's a startup or an existing organization. Focus is everything. Lots of things come at you. There are a lot of things that can distract you. You really need to know essentially where the time needs to be spent and why. What the model is that you're pursuing, and really stay on track from that perspective. Don't get sidetracked, and don't sweat the little things when you're doing, because they're all going to hit you. They're all going to come. So focus is number one, top of list for me. The second piece that I learned is people. People are everything in the business. Even when you're a startup and you're small, you don't have the resources, and so that's why the first part becomes so important, because so many things come at you. You really got to concentrate on the stuff that matters for what you're trying to accomplish, and bringing around you really great people that can help elevate the way you think, the way you react. That can serve as a resource is essential. You're never going to have all the answers.
Oh, the way you elevate the way you think and act. What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, example of that is, one of the reasons I got involved in GSD with you, Gary, is there are so many talented, intellectual, smart, seasoned folks within this group. To have access to that, to be able to sort out a problem, or to be able to think through a problem differently. I've got a process that I run through, but it doesn't make my process perfect, right? So it allows you to challenge that by bringing other folks in to gain their perspective, which forces you to think differently, and that's really that elevating factor.
Yeah, that's the one thing is, we talk about the Ferrari in the garage. Sometimes people have these beautiful Ferraris and they never get them out, and they wonder why their companies never take off. In reality, they hit it. They just don't have the exposure to the market. And, it's kind of like, America's Got Talent, right? You got these talented folks that are, singing in a phone store. The guy was a opera guy and, works in a phone shop, and, nobody would ever discover them. And part of it is discovering it and then curate it and helping it. It's, because there's guys just like yourself, Frank, that have amazing backgrounds and have an incredible company that can impact society, and they never get a chance to show it. So it's, hats off to you. It's amazing.
Well, I appreciate that, Gary. I add one more piece to that too. A lot of folks build an amazing vehicle, but forget to put gas in the tank.
That's right. Yeah, they do. Or they end up building the vehicle and spending so much money on building the vehicle, they don't have enough money for the gas.
For the gas, exactly.
Yeah, and that's another problem. You're right about it. Sometimes they innovate so much that they forget they have to sell this stuff. They don't like selling, but they like to create, and you can't do that all the time. You got to be selling. So if you look at it, so you Prepaid Nation, you can see you're going paid. You're a seed investor, Berkeley Payments, member of the board. If you're going down 3, you see all these payment companies coming up, KKR, consulting specialist. Then how did you come up with Tua? When was the day you said, "Oh, I'm going to form this company called Tua"? When did that happen?
When it comes to Tua, the first thing is to recognize that I came late to the game with Tua. Tua was actually founded by a gentleman by the name of Bob Christensen, who you've had the opportunity to meet.
Sure.
And the concept was born out of recognizing that there are people that have essential needs, and they don't necessarily have access to the credit or the capital in order to address them. And what that looks like in very simple terms is, I may have an issue and have to fix a damaged molar. I might have insurance, but I don't have enough to cover, the activity. And so at a certain point, I've got to make a decision between, can I place this on my credit card, or do I go without fixing my tooth and chew on the left side of my mouth versus the right?
Or end up having a lot more problems because you don't fix it. It ends up you getting a root canal.
You got it. And so we believe there was a gap in the market in terms of being able to provide affordable financing to users that is completely transparent, that enables people to be able to solve those issues without the added stress and financial burden of stacking, a debt, frankly. Obviously, credit cards are in the market. There are other providers that provide these services, but they tend to be fairly expensive. And we thought that we could create a model that was both affordable. And when I mean that, our target is always to be 30% less from an interest perspective than what the average credit card charge is. To be completely transparent, meaning no hidden fees whatsoever. You know exactly what it costs you. So it's really a fixed payment program. But to solve it in a way that was very efficient at the point of sale, because that's when you're making the decision. You're not making it, beforehand. You're actually making it when you already have the problem in front of you. And what we recognize is that it's an inefficient process. So when they created TUA, we did it on the back of the fact that we needed to have a solution that served not just the consumer, but also the merchant. It's a bridge, right, between the two. And I got involved a little bit late in the game. Bob was already well down in the development pieces and kind of set the foundation. I learned about what was going through one of the investors that happened to be a friend of mine that called me up and asked me, to take a look at this thing and give my perspective from a payments point of view. And obviously, having the tenure in the industry that I have from a global perspective, I've seen lots of these types of models for different elements. And what I really liked about what Bob and the team at TUA were doing was they created something that was very simple, extremely efficient, and really went to the heart of the issue, which is affordability. And so through multiple conversations, I decided, that I wanted to be part of it, and they asked me to be, and I said, let's do it. Let's make this thing sing. So that's how I got involved about a year and a half ago now.
Well, so you're making it sing, and how's the journey been?
Well, listen, in all startups go through ups and downs. I think the fun part about this has been building the business from the complete ground up, and I have some experience in doing that over the last little while. We've done exceptionally well. We've started to onboard merchants. Right now, we're onboarding about 10 a week. We're north of 230 and climbing. That's really the toughest part. To your point, getting out there and getting noticed. We've formed partnerships with 11 channel partners now, which give us access to over 50,000 merchants. We're focused on really 3 key verticals, technically 4, but really honing in on 3. One of them being dental. We think there's a huge opportunity there, in the tune of about $60-70 billion in out-of-pocket expenditures on an annualized basis. That's people paying cash essentially or credit to do something to offset their insurance cost. Automotive repair and servicing is another vertical. So through those partnerships, we believe we'll be able to ramp this up quite quickly, and we think we're on target to hit about 1,500 merchants live within the next year.
No, that's great. And so, if you, so next year you look like you're going to have the merchants. How's revenue? How are you doing in terms of your MRR? Where's revenue and how's it growing?
Well, I mean, what typically happens in our business model, and it's pretty simple. We charge a transactional fee, and we make some money on the loan, but essentially we generate about $280, give or take, on an average loan of about $1,900, and that's what we're getting. So from a revenue perspective, again, as you bulk up merchants, that will continue to grow, but the model's very sound. We've actually brought in also a third party to assess that recently, just to make sure that we're on track. And they've given us glowing kind of thumbs up on this thing can really move, and it starts to get really interesting when we're in the 1,000 plus range from a merchant perspective.
Sounds good. And what are your plans for global expansion?
Well, we think there's opportunities in multiple markets, but right now our focus is really on the U.S. market. We think that's where where we have a huge potential. We've seen it to be roughly about $390+ billion a year at the moment, and growing. That's in the out of cash expenditures on the verticals that I've talked about. So it's a massive market opportunity for us. We do see some potential to come into the Canadian market as well, and parts of Europe. But right now we're extremely focused on the U.S., and that's really, it's all about merchant for us in the United States.
That's fantastic. Listen, we're coming up to the top of the hour. Closing thoughts, and how do people get a hold of you?
Well, I want to thank you for the opportunity first and foremost. This has been an amazing adventure, and
thank
GSD,
you. It's a two-way street, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, I've really enjoyed getting to meet you and a lot of the other members of the GSD network. So I appreciate that, and I want to say thanks. for that. In terms of getting a hold of us, you can visit our website. It's in my name, www.tuafinancial.com. Take a look at what the solution is. Ultimately, we're looking for partnerships in terms of channel partnerships and growth partnerships. So reach out. Happy to talk to you one-on-one and just chat a little bit about the opportunity and where we're headed.
And how do they get a hold of you?
So you can get a hold of me through the website and then link to the contact us and be able to reach out that way.
All right. Sounds great. Well, thanks for your time. I appreciate it. And thanks to everybody for joining one more time. GSD presents Silicon Valley AI and Tech. And my name is Gary Fowler, and I'm your host. Stay happy, stay safe, and stay healthy. And I will be back to you again for another exciting edition next week. Thank you. Take care, Frank. Take care, everybody. It's good seeing you.
Thanks, everyone.